Do you notice the more tabs you have, the higher your stress gets?
I do.
For Joel, yes.
I don't know about
I
Emily
noticed
though.
that today. Like I don't know. It like creeps up on you, and then all of a sudden I've got 15 tabs open, and I start to think which one should I close. I just hit the X; they're all gone, and
That's what I do too.
immediately it's like, like
Mm, yeah,
and then I start all over. It's like, hey, what were we doing? Cool, just open up that one window.
that's it. I totally agree. I do the same exact thing. Hey guys, welcome to the Proclivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joel Cochran. I'm here with my incredible co-host, and we have a special guest. We love our special guests. Why? Because we vet them and we make sure they are of the highest quality. So this guest is grade A. Is that the highest as it goes, Emily, in terms of food quality?
Mm.
Is there
I
a
should know
double A?
that. That's a good question. Sounds great.
Okay, we'll say 5 stars.
I think there is.
He's
I mean, if you're talking about video games and a tier list, it'd be a S tier, would be above A. So
okay.
Okay.
Whatever the highest level of ranking that is in your mind right now, this is our guest. Our guest is Christian Genson. And this dude has a diverse background. First and foremost, he's an incredible mathematician. And that's just the beginning. He also runs a CrossFit gym. He has experience coaching, both mindset, psychological, physical, nutrition, high level uh, go getters to beginner athletes. This guy has a ton of experience. And what we're going to be talking about today and why this is going to be so interesting for you is that Christian doesn't necessarily believe in balance. Oof. And we're going to talk about breaking balance and how that makes sense. We're always talking about, well, I got to balance family life with work. I got to balance my fitness with my nutrition. I got to balance my relationships and my self recovery. We're going to question that today. Yet before we get into breaking balance, I'd like to introduce Christian to you. Christian, welcome to the podcast.
thanks, Joel. Joel, I need to just pay you to hype me up like that in the morning. I need you to just record something just like that. Every morning I wake up, I'm just going to play that.
Yes.
And makes you just feel like a brick house.
Every time. Wah, wah, wah. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the day, Christian Genson.
I need to just clip this. And when I get consults at the gym before they come in, it's like, hey, just check this out so you know who you're going to be talking to.
Doubt. Top tier.
That's awesome.
Grade A, 5-star. I don't remember what you said, S level something.
Yeah, S tier.
S tier.
S plus.
S plus.
S plus.
S plus. Christian, what I'm curious about is just a little bit of history with you so that people know and understand where they're getting their information from. You've had multiple changes throughout your life, and we have a lot of different listeners who maybe have taken the leap in their business, in their nutrition, in a relationship, and others who have yet to take the leap. And you've taken multiple leaps in your life, both personally and professionally. Tell us a little bit about your path from where you started to where you are now and the different times where you went, oh man, am I going to do this? And what you decided from there.
So I know before we hit record, we talked about, which we can talk more about, when I left my teaching career. As you were saying that, though, the first thing that popped in my mind was when my son was born. I was 16 when my wife had my son, and that was the first time that I would say I took a leap. And even being 15, 16 at the time when we found out, my wife and I had a conversation with each other, and we both in our own perspective was, I'm down to do this. If you're down to do this, you could be on the team. And if you're not down to do this, that's okay. I'm still going to do this independent of what you decide.
Mm.
And we both made that decision on our own. And so then together, uh, raised our son starting at 16. And, as you say, that's the posture that my wife and I have taken for all of our decisions, that, hey, this is a big move that we're going to make. I'm down. Are you on? And just spearheading it. So with that, some kind of big ticket items that happened that you had asked was that happened. And after we graduated high school, went to school to be a high school math teacher. Really liked math. Really liked helping people. Did that for 2 years. I had my own classroom. And after the second year, realized that it just wasn't for me. I didn't feel the impact that I was making. Was totally out of alignment. Was experiencing a lot of anxiety. And around that same time, my stepdad passed away, and that prompted me to consider my own mortality, and realizing that the life that we were creating, wasn't the life that was fulfilling.
Mhm.
And all around that same time, we've been doing CrossFit for a couple of years, and had gone and gotten our level 1 at the CrossFit level 1 seminar, and met some coaches that had turned that into a professional career.
Mm.
And they were sharp, they were professionals, they were experts, and I had never considered that as a possibility. I just assumed coaches were, dudes with their shirts off and tattoos telling people to pick up barbells,
Yes.
not realizing that that's a career path. So the anxiety and the desire to do something else prompted me to leave teaching. I thought that I was going to move into a coaching position and become a full-time coach within a year, and that did not happen. I quit teaching without much to bet on, and so there was 2 years of floundering around doing weird jobs. Uh, Worked at a refinery, did some bartending, did some substitute teaching, did some handyman work, and then
Wow.
2 years later, and there was times in that where, so we made that decision spiritually, and so we prayed about it, and felt God telling us that where we were going is not where we were meant to be, and so took that leap to quit that job. And then when things weren't panning out, there was a lot of, is this right? Then there wasn't any signs or hope going in that direction for like 2 years. There's a lot of opportunities that came my way, a lot of jobs that I applied for that I got right up to the edge of getting. One was like a data analyst, another was working full time at a refinery. There's a couple other things that seemed like they were gonna relieve me of that stress of not knowing, what was going to happen, because I was only coaching like a couple hours a week, wasn't making a whole lot of money, and my wife was supporting us, and it was all just like pursuing this dream without any sort of traction.
Mm.
And at any one of those opportunities, I would have accepted. Like, I was down to just like quit, no big deal. Coaching isn't for me. I'll go do this job. And none of them panned out. And after 2.5 years, at the beginning of 2020, right before, right when the pandemic was just starting, my wife had an opportunity to accept a job at a hospital. She's a lab scientist down in Orlando, which we had wanted to move to. And so we agreed that if we could have 2 of 3 things lined up, we would move. And those 3 things were, she needed a job, which was already there. I needed a job, and we needed to sell our house. So if 2 of those 3 landed, we'd make the third one work. Well, all 3 worked out. We sold the house, and I got hooked up with a CrossFit gym down there, working, getting 15 classes a week. So I was going from like 2 classes a week to 15, and that was a huge jump. And so we made the move down here. And the cool thing with that was there was 2 different positions that I was trying to get in the where I would have just accepted, hey, coaching isn't for me, or it's just not for me right now. One of them was working full-time at a refinery, and another one was a teaching gig at the school where I student taught. And I said to myself, if they had an opening, I'd go back, I'd try again. We had our house up, we sold our house, we were getting ready to move, and it was like within a week of when we moved, I got an email from the school asking me for an interview, and I got an email from their refinery offering me a job. And that was had that visceral feeling of God telling me I kept these doors closed for a reason. And I still didn't know what was to come, but that was the reassurance that I needed. That was him telling me this is where we're going. Right. Yeah. So fast forward a little bit. We ended up moving down to Central Florida. After being down there for 6 months, realized that I had exhausted that gym that I was coaching at as a financial and a professional resource. And we just had some value differences. They wanted to go one way, I wanted to go another. And we were settled in, and if I wanted to grow, I was going to have to do something different. So I had a couple ideas in mind. One being start a gym in our garage, another being plug in with a different CrossFit gym. But I had felt God telling me that now was the time to do something different, to pivot again.
Wow.
So I called that gym owner, and I was bummed about this, about doing this. So I called the gym owner to quit. And I was really torn because I really loved the community that I was at. I really liked the people, and I felt that I had more to give them, but I couldn't sacrifice myself to give to them. So I called that gym owner and told him, like, hey, I appreciate the opportunity, but I feel, it's time for me to go do my own thing. Okay. I'll work with you guys till the end of the CrossFit Open, and then I'll be out. And he said, well, do you want to buy the gym?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And going back to doors being closed, when we had moved down, some things didn't work out the way we had intended. So we went to go buy a house when we initially moved down, and we had proceeds from our old house that we had sold. And because of some situation, we ended up being unable to buy that house. So we ended up renting. So I had this lump of proceeds in my bank account. And when he offered to sell me the gym, that is what I used as the down payment to buy the gym that I would not have had otherwise if we would have bought this house. And again, that was God telling me I closed this door for a reason. So now we've owned the gym for 2.5 years. My wife, just this week is the first week she dropped down to part-time, so now she's at the gym more, and I have the pleasure of being plugged in with the guys at best hour of their day, helping be a part of the machine that's helping coaches and gym owners transform their lives, just like they had helped me transform mine. And I credit all of the success that I have as coach, as a gym, to those guys and their team.
Whew. Talk about leaps. Golly. The first thing that came up to me, I mean, thank you for sharing that story, of where you've come from. Resourcefulness is the first thing that came up for me. And I say this a lot in my coaching. People are much more resourceful than they give themselves credit for. Yeah. We allow too much fear to grip us, believing that we won't be able to figure our way out. I have to hold on to this. Anything new is way too scary. I won't be able to overcome. And it's usually not until somebody's thrusted into something that they don't have a choice on. Somebody dies, they're fired from their job, a pandemic comes, and then people become very resourceful. And that's what I kept hearing in your story. It's like, whoa, unplanned pregnancy. Okay, let's become resourceful. Oh, this is not calling me, then this job. Okay, instead of being like, all right, I got to get all my ducks in a row and this and that. Nope, I'm going to go. And you were resourceful. You found different jobs and different ways and so on and so forth. Right. Even up to hey, I'm going to quit and I'm going to start my own gym. Oh, and here's the gym. Like the constant resourcefulness. And this brings us to balance, which is before we started, you said some really, really intriguing things that made even Emily go, And if you get Emily to really put her chin up, we're going somewhere. If some people may be listening and they might even say that was reckless, right? You had a kid and you were just like quitting your job and so on and so forth, right? Yet
I like that.
You like that?
I've never thought of the word that way. Yeah, because I agree. It is reckless, and I don't recommend it for most people. I have a burn the ships personality, where if I'm gonna do something, I have to go all in.
Yeah, well, and we're not saying, guys, if you're out there, quit your job tomorrow. Maybe you're at that point. Maybe it is time to burn the ships. Yet I believe people hold on for way too long, right? It's like they're on their ship and they're kind of running out of food and the boat's starting to leak a little bit and the sails are kind of torn and they're trying to just hang on. They're like, well, I see that island, but it's a long swim from this boat to that island, to get there. And they keep holding on. They just find themselves in more depression and more anxiety because they're thinking, I should go do this, but I'm not because I'm holding on. So they have anxiety. Then they wake up the next day and go, man, I really should just jumped off this boat and gone. So now they have depression. And so we're living in this constant revolving door of anxiety and depression due to the fact that we don't necessarily have the belief that we can be resourceful enough to go, here's the gas can, here's the matches, and watch me go. And I'm stronger than I allow myself to believe that I am. And so I want to dive into this, breaking balance. I want you to explain what you were talking to us before about balance.
Yeah, I didn't have it this articulated when I made the decision to quit teaching, but in my my soul, I realized that there was an imbalance, and that the discontent with work leading to anxiety was affecting the other parts of my life. And that was the first time that I realized, and we had talked about this before, is that I have a whole life. And people often talk about, oh, I got to balance my personal life with my professional life. I got to balance my family. I got to balance this and that. And the way that I view my life is a whole life. So there is no like work life, there's no personal life, there's no social life. I have one life, and all of that fits in this one life. And all of those are synergistic. And so if one of those are off, all of those are off. And if all of those are on, then everything's going great. And so I make sure that the things that I add to my life improve all of the other things. And I find that so many people may make decisions because it sounds good logistically. This job pays more and it's got this cool title associated to it. And when I ask, how's that going to affect your fulfillment? is this going to be more fulfilling than your current position? Is this going to allow you to be more present with your family? Is this going
Mm-hmm.
to, allow you to do the things that you want to do? And if all those things are no, then that position may not be right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I found in that instance was, this sounded good on paper. I was making more money than I had before as a teacher. Uh, Coming straight out of college, the hours were nice, the summers were off, but it wasn't allowing me to be present with my family. It wasn't allowing me to be true to myself, and that was ultimately more important than the niceties of having that position.
Mm. Why do you think that the word balance in itself, I mean, because I've used it before. Emily, have you used it?
Yeah, we hear it all the time with our clients for sure.
Yeah, where do you think that like came from?
I don't know. That's interesting because it's always the work-life balance is what people talk
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
right?
It's like, well, and a lot of
Like I need
coaches,
better.
yeah, and a lot of people will talk about it, work-life balance, work-life balance. But is that just a catchphrase, right? Is that a catch-all that we just haven't necessarily looked at and gone like, well, do we?
Yeah, I don't. I definitely don't have balance. There's there's a cliche that uh, said that a lot of people will leave their job to start a small business so they could quit working 40 hours a week just to work 80 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's totally how I feel. And I work way more than I did when I was teaching. And I'm way more happy and I'm way more present with my family. And my family gets to spend time with me while I work,
Mm-hmm.
literally at home or at the gym. We're together. We're doing this. And I describe my business as a family business because that's what it is. My wife and I do it together. You see my son at the gym, and to your point, it's not balanced.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look at those numbers,
Mm-hmm.
there's no balance there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not looking for balance though. I'm looking for synergy.
Well, and that we just recorded an episode, episode 117, where we were talking about breaking the all or nothing mentality. And
Mm,
one of the things that we brought up is that a lot of people either know they're zero or they know they're 100%, right? I either know that I'm either going to class or I'm not going to class. And they don't know the in between. They don't know what their 25% effort is within fitness, or 50 or 75,
mm,
right? Where
yeah.
25% is, for me, that's either a mile walk or a mile run. I can do it anywhere. I can do it anytime, right? I can get it in, whether it's in between, calls or early in the morning. I just have about 15 minutes. I can go do a mile run. 50% is going to be a designed workout. I have a go-to workout called the rodeo, which is 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 air squats, right? And I can do that in about 10 to 15 minutes. And then 75% is like, okay, it's actually programmed, something at home. I do programming for myself at home. And then 100% would be at like a class, right? Or I'm diving into training. I'm training for an ultra or something else like that. And the reason I bring that up is because we wanted to paint the picture that you're more of a conductor, right, than a balancer. You're conducting your life, choosing what to be on or off, or how loud or how quiet. And it doesn't mean that when the flutes aren't playing, they're not there. You're just asking them to be quiet for the moment. And so looking at life as being able to go, I'm conducting this, not necessarily balancing it, but I'm conducting, and I know how to raise the levels and lower the levels dependent on what I need, which is a different mindset than I'm either on or off, or I'm either way off. If I'm working too much, that must mean that I'm not taking care of my health, right? And so the balance is way too much work, not enough health. Instead of looking at it, I was like, ooh, actually, where can I look to balance this and or not balance this, conduct this in my life? What do you think?
That's
What do
big.
you think about that?
No, that's big. And if you think, if you know anything about music, whether it's an orchestra or a band, none of those instruments aren't all on the same level. Like you said, at any given time, some are quieter, some are louder. It may change throughout the song. It may change from song to song. And it would sound horrible if all of them were at the same volume the whole time, every song.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the worst. That's such a great point. That's such a great point. Emily, what do you think about, you had the chin up moment of like, oh, and talking about balance before the podcast.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the perspective or mindset of, I do need to have balance. Everything does need to be working equally and perfectly, because that's what a lot of people talk about, what can bring you happiness. But as Christian said, if we consider you as an individual and where you're at in a season or even in a day, what do you need? What do you want? Right? And how can you make that work with things feeling in the flow or synergistic, as Christian said? And so it's going to look different for everyone. And that's where why I always say when it comes to nutrition, it depends. It depends the person, the situation, what your wants and needs are, what your goals are. Same idea is translated to all areas. And so for me, shifting to that, to be like, oh, it doesn't have to be in balance. Like that was the first thing that came to mind. And it was like, I immediately thought, oh, that's a lot of pressure off. So that for me, that's why I was like, huh, like literally that's just a shift of perspective in how it should, quote unquote, should look.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Christian, I'm curious. Most of the people that we work with are going to be busy business professionals, moms, dads, right? And we hear it quite often. I'm just trying to balance everything that's going on. How would you coach somebody through this in terms of like they got a kid, right? And they got work, and they're trying to figure out, now that I have a new kid, is this going to work? Is this work best suited for my kid and my husband and our needs as a husband and wife? And like I come back to immediately going like wanting to say, well, how do we help them balance this? Like that's immediately like I want to come back and start saying that. How
Mhm.
how would you coach somebody through this?
I was thinking of your orchestra analogy when you said that. And I'm thinking, I'm imagining looking at all of the instruments and asking yourself, looking at each section and asking one, is this section suiting me?
Mm,
And if it's not, is it too quiet? Is that section too loud? Or
hmm
does that section not fit with the rest of the orchestra at all? Do I need to get rid of that section altogether?
hmm hmm Ooh.
Or, and adding another section. Is there a section I wish I had that I don't have?
Oh, it's almost like
And that could be fitness,
uh-huh.
nutrition.
So if somebody is saying that, like, okay, let's say that they're in a mentality that's either off or on, right? That's what I mean. Again, episode 117 was that it was so many people are like, either I'm on or I'm off, and I'm off. It's just, I'm off the track or the wheels have fallen off. In terms of, again, balance with the orchestra, how do we get people, how do we get people to understand that, you know, you don't have to be at the same level with everything all the time?
We talked before about the type of clients that I like to work with mindset, and the type that I like to work with is they don't know where they want to go. They know they don't want to be here, but they don't know where they want to go. And the first place that I start with them is simply looking at, where are you? Because it's hard to know where to go directionally or what destination you want to go to if you don't even know where you're at.
Mm,
Because if we decided, hey, I want to go to New York, great. Where are you? Because if you're in Tokyo, it's going to be way different than if you're in New Jersey.
mm,
And if you don't know the difference, then how are we going to get there? So that's the first place that I start is, let's look at, what does life look like, and what do those different, going to the orchestra analogy, instruments look like? What does family look like? What does work look like? And then what does your person look like? How are you taking care of you? And analyzing those three to see, you know, what what's going on before we decide where we want to go.
I love that. Being able to understand like those 2 points are vital, right? First, the point of like, where am I currently at? Who am I? What am I feeling? Am I feeling anxiety? Am I feeling depression? Am I feeling, you know, uh, fear? And where do I want to go? And knowing what that clear point is. Because I feel like, until you said that analogy, people go, well, I want to go east. And that's their point. And you're like, just east, huh? All the things that are just east, like I just want to get fit, same kind of like analogy. And so it's like, well, where are you at right now? Like, okay, well, what is fit? Well, what are you looking for in terms of fit? What about everything else in your life? Right? Because so many people tend to go like, they get to a rub point where they're seeking answers and they seek it external instead of internal. And they think that the solution is 75 hard, right? Or some
Yeah.
type of program or some type. So I'm thinking, oh no, if I do that, okay, then I will feel better. When I get my degree, I'll feel better, right? When I finally get married, I'll feel better. And they look for that point, and then they get to east, right? Whatever they think feeling better is. And they get to that point and they're like, shoot, well, I guess if I'm in San Francisco, Reno is east, but I'm really trying to get to Maine, but I don't even know that because I haven't even figured out my own self to be able to find the direction. Like their compasses are broke.
My wife and I had a conversation close to the beginning of the year that we felt God telling us at the beginning of the year this was going to be the year of prosperity for us. That we'd spent the past 5 years really working hard and grinding and making sacrifices, and this was the year that we're going to see prosperity and we're going to see the fruits of our labor. And right after the first quarter, it was probably March or April, we were getting frustrated because that had not manifested yet in the way that we were looking. And I felt God telling me, if you're not grateful for what you currently have, what makes me believe you'll be grateful for what you're going to have?
Gosh,
so we decided the rest of the year that we were going to be grateful. And we asked ourselves, what if this is it? What if this is as far as the train goes, and we just it plateaus, and this is what we get till the end. This is as high as it goes. And that brought us actually a sense of relief, and realized that if this is all there is, I'm super stoked with what we've done and where we're at. And the irony is, since then, we have then seen that prosperity that we knew was coming. And I believe that it required that feeling of gratitude, that we needed to be grateful for what we had before we were worthy of the better things to come.
I resonate with that big time. And I would even say, coming back to, balance, I believe people are imbalanced a lot of times, right? If we're sticking to that theme and just connecting with people, is that they're imbalanced because they aren't accepting the things that they currently have. And they think that they need to add in more. They're not accepting their body for what it is right now. They're not accepting their job for what it is right now. They're not accepting their relationship for what it is right now. And so they're always seeking into the future and trying to add all of these things together, and they're just continuously putting more and more onto their plate instead of figuring out how to conduct what they currently have. What can I make do with what I have right now? And I believe so many people get stuck in that. We have a professional motocross rider. That's part of our clients, and he's having a really difficult time because as a motorcycle rider, right, there's so many different pieces and parts to your motorcycle, and little adjustments, when you're a top pro, little adjustments on your shocks or your clutch or your gas makes a huge difference. And if you're not getting necessarily the support from your team, you can get stuck in going, I don't have the support and this communication with my team, and so I'm not getting what I need in my clutch or my shocks or my response or so on and so forth. And I feel so many people can get into that space too with life, instead of just looking at it and going like, okay, well, this is what I have. This is my team. This is their communication. This is what I got with my shock and my clutch right now. So what can I do within my control to make every corner count? Every piece of this bike work in sync with me, instead of thinking that it's out of sync with me, and being grateful that I have a team or have a bike to be able to ride, so that if the team does come around and go, oh, cool, we're going to adjust that, I've already got my reps in going, I'm going to figure out this shock, whether they're going to fix it or not. And then if they do fix it and I get a little softer, a little bit more firm, great, cool. I'm going to adjust to that too as well. And allowing ourselves to be able to move in that direction of being able to go, oh, cool. What can I be grateful with what I have right now and make the most out of it? Instead of seeking and going, oh, if I only had, if there was that one thing, if I only had just a little bit more time.
In my gym, I talk a lot about bonus points. So with the idea of bonus points is there's an amount that fits our needs. So going back to what you talked about is, maybe 3 days a week fits your needs for working out. If I hit my 3 days a week, that's what I need to hit my goals, to feel good, to have balance, to go back to that word in my life. And anything beyond that is bonus points. And I find so many people get caught up looking just for the bonus points. They want the extra first without looking at what fits my needs. And so that's how I live my life is, man, like, this is really cool. This fits what we need. And anything after that, it's bonus points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's no stress about, if I didn't get bonus points, that's okay. It was bonus. If I got 3 days a week, awesome. That's what I need. But I got bonus this week, and next week, maybe I won't get bonus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah, that idea of like the cherry on top,
Yeah.
Of we tend to think that, again, you come back to the why people feel imbalanced. They feel imbalanced because they think it's either completely on or completely off, and it has to be, if I'm making a sundae, it has to have all the things to make it a sundae. When it's like, hey, we just need to make sure you got the cup first. Can you actually make a sundae without a cup? No, you're just gonna be sitting there with ice cream melted in your hand. Oh, okay, cool. Now we can put ice cream in a cup. Do you got a spoon? Okay, because there's no way for you to eat the ice cream unless you got the spoon. And then being able to work the essentials to get to the point where it's like, okay, cool, cherry on top. Instead of thinking that I have to have the whole thing all the time, it has to be perfect all the time. Instead of being able to accept it and be able to do CrossFit style, do the common uncommonly well. Doing the reps isn't always sexy, but it's essential. It's essential.
And it's easy to look. It's easier to look at somebody else's toppings than looking at the essentials that you have.
Oh, totally. Oh man, that's such a. My brother gets caught into to like looking at like these influencers online that are in private jets and, crushing it and doing all the things. He's looking at their Sundays, and it's like, you realize that for them to build that Sunday consistently took 25 years doing the essentials, like understanding how to be able to build that every single day before they made it this beautiful cherry on top with the sprinkles and ice cream swirls. Emily, are we doing the wrong analogy right now with ice cream and everything else? Are we going down the wrong?
Nope, this works. It's fine.
I've chosen a posture of being happy for what's cool for other people and prioritizing what's cool for me. And it's easy to look at the cool things that other people are doing and think, man, I want that. And if you take a second and ask yourself, do I really want that? Most of the time it's a no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, whether it's a house, a car, they moved somewhere, they got a new job, it's so easy to look at that and be like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
It's like, do you really? And if you do, have you been working for it?
Mm-hmm.
And if that inspires you, awesome. We can start entertaining that idea and make a pivot and start working towards that. Or is it just cool for them? And if they are, give them a high five, be happy for them, and then acknowledge the things that are cool for you that aren't cool for them.
I love it. Love it. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, Christian, this has been awesome. It's been an incredible reframe, I know, for both Emily and I, in terms of looking at this and going like, huh, and this is the path that again, the episode that we just did of being able to go, is it less about trying to take things off, put things on, or more about moving things around? Instead of this removing and adding, it's more moving things around and getting used to being able to allow things to be fluid and shift. And so I want to give you a moment here to cap this, if you like, and then also to be able to share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you and who you actually work with.
Yeah. If I could put a cap on it, the way I live my life is I like to do cool stuff. And if that's the approach that you live your life, it's gonna be all right. And just figuring out, hey, what's cool for you? And I don't just mean like the extravagant cool things, but when you think about what you're gonna have for lunch, what's cool for you? When you think about the job, what's cool for you?
Mm-hmm.
And when you prioritize doing things that make you feel proud of yourself and that are for you, you're going to end up in a place that is way happier and more fulfilled than where you currently are.
I love it, man. I love it. Beautifully said. So how do people get in touch with you? And if people are curious about the work that you do, who do you work with?
Yeah, so you could find me mostly on Instagram. My handle is Christian.Genson. You can also check out my podcast on YouTube. Most of that's been quiet lately, as I've been making pivots, working more with the best hour guys. The people that I do work with, as far as mindset coaching goes, I work with people that don't know where they want to go. They know that they're unhappy where they're at, and they know they want to be somewhere that's not here, and they don't know where that is.
I love it. I love it, man. Such a good episode. Thank you so much. You guys reach out to Christian on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle? Did you say?
Christian.Genson.
Okay.
Genson.
Genson. Check them out. We'll tag you in this. Christian, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Anything else to say before we sign off?
Just thanks for doing this. This is super fun, and I really dig the orchestra analogy. I'm gonna be sitting with that for the rest of the week.
100%. Well, you opened it up with being able to say, hey, we're going to break balance. And I'm like, that just warped my brain. How many times we were talking about balance, balance, balance in life. And now all of a sudden it's like, there's no such thing. And I'm like, is there no such thing? Did my life just change? So I'm excited
Yeah,
to
well,
continue.
goes all the way back to what's cool for you. When you guys said balance, I checked it how that felt with me, and like, man, I don't like that word,
You know,
and had to think for a second, why don't I like that word? Why is that word not cool for
mm-hmm.
me?
Yes,
And this is where we landed.
that was perfect. All right, you guys, thank you once again for tuning in. We really appreciate everything. I have all of your support when it comes to proclivity. If you've liked this episode, please like, share, subscribe, hit those 5 stars, give us a review. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We'll see you next week in episode 121.